Hello there, thank you for staying with us and welcome to another edition of Channels Beam on Channels Television. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, it's over 61 years since Nigeria pulled down the Union Jack and hoisted the green-white grin, signaling its independence from its former colonial master. Now, though the mantle of leadership was handed over to relatively young persons, that seems to have changed as the youths now hardly find themselves in positions of power and authority to effect changes that will affect their lives. So today on the program, we will be looking at how far youths have fared and what their chances are of being in leadership positions as we look forward to the future. And joining us to look at this is Indi Kato. She is the Executive Director of Dinidari Foundation and a consultant on human rights response in Nigeria's COVID-19 response. We also have Aneke Finbar. He is a journalist, a leadership coach, a professional speaker, and the special assistant to the governor of Akwa Ibom on new media. They both join us via Zoom. It's a pleasure to have you both on the program today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, you're welcome. So Indy kicks out the conversation for us. I'm sure Manekeme is a gentleman and he would say, he would agree with me if I say ladies should go first. So kicks out the conversation for us. So much has happened. A lot of water has gone under the bridge since Nigeria got its independence. But how far have we come, the young people? How would you say, how well would you say they've fared since this has happened, especially in recent times?
First, I must really thank you. Okay, that's and you can fire on.
Okay.
Be a gentleman, Aneke.
I was sorry, Aneke. I'm sorry. Okay. So it's sometimes 2 steps backwards and then 10 steps, or 2 steps forward and 10 steps backwards. Hasn't really been funny for young people. I do think that our generation felt like we stood a chance, like we were going somewhere, and then all of a sudden it's full stop, and it's not a good full stop at all. And I think going forward in this conversation, that's something that needs to be addressed. I mean, you already set the ball rolling by saying that young people, the current generation that holds this country, actually started as young people, and that was the normal thing then for young people to get into government and attempt to create change. And then in our generation, leaders of tomorrow, it has kept like how many generations, and it has now landed on ours, and we're seeing that it's looking highly unlikely, even though we're fighters and we do not, we won't take it sitting, but it's looking a certain way. So let's hope. We're hopeful, but right now things are not looking good at all, even though we're a fighting generation.
So what can be done to make things right if you say they aren't looking good as it is?
So one of the things, I mean, I won't say that good leadership is a thing that, I won't be ageist and say that good leadership is a thing that has to do with age. But I would also point out that, the certain generation that has had this country for a very long time, I wouldn't say I'm particularly impressed with where we are with things. And so we need to give another set of people a chance. Also, one thing that I would like to point to is, relevance. Like, you're making decisions right now. If you're a septuagenarian, when you're in your 70s and all of that, these decisions, you're not going to be alive to witness them. So I believe that decisions that should be made for people like me, people who are younger than me, should be made by people who will be alive or who are highly likely with the generation alive to face these consequences. So let's come back to what I'm trying to say. In terms of young people in leadership, one of the main things I'm looking for, especially for the opposition party, right, or for opposition parties in general, it's not just one opposition party, seen as I'm not partisan at the moment, it is for youth ownership. Right? For young people to feel invested in these processes, we're seeing young people should come out to vote, should come out to do. The first thing is that we need to get our politics right. First things first. And so what I want us to push for, or what I'm pushing for of things, right now my focus is on political parties for young people to have a feeling of ownership in political parties. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We lost your thoughts for a bit, but yes, eventually we got to hear you, where you were talking about how you want young people to get their political...
Okay, so right now, my major focus is for politics, right? Okay, so right now, my major focus is for young people to have a feeling of ownership for political parties, right? I don't want to get into the PDP and feel like, oh, I don't belong here, and I have to struggle to fit in here. I want young people to get into these parties, PDP, YDP, and feel like this is their space. Because the politics is for the future. This politics is not for what happened behind. And for political parties who still sit and brag that they have people in 774 local governments, you need to look at what those people are doing in those 774 local governments. If you have these people in these local governments, how come you're not winning elections in these places? So for me, right now, is youth ownership. If young people do not feel invested in Nigeria, right, they won't put their all in. And right now, what young people are putting their all in is how to go away. Our best brains are looking for how to go away. Medical doctors, engineers, everything, everybody is looking for how to go away. Like, it's a trend for young Nigerians to say, oh, look, oh, I have left the country. So what can we do now? Right now, in terms of policy making, in terms of politics, and that's why I'm starting with politics, and we need to get our politics right. We need to get youth emotionally, I'm very keen on this, emotionally invested in these processes. And how do we get youth emotionally invested in these processes? We have to make them have a sense of ownership and not feel like the token youth, right? The one, and I'm very proud of you, and I'm sure your state does engage youth a lot, but I'm going to use you as an example. Like, Anekem Fimba is inside here and it's like, oh, he feels like he's doing great alone. No, the normalcy, the normal thing should be Anekem Fimba's inside here. And young people knowing that, oh, behind Anekem Fimba, many of them can get into the process. Behind Inia Memobong, many of them can get into the process. That this is the normal and that the ones there are not the few allowed in. As soon as we start to see this, then we start to see a change in policy making, a change in reaction in the abuse of youth on any way, right? And a sense of belonging. And then we can start talking about how we can get things right. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Mindy. Let me quickly now bring in, Anekeme, who, you were trying to make that analogy with. So, Anekeme, looking at, what Indy is saying, that's if you agree or if you do not agree, she says we've taken perhaps 2 steps forward and 10 backwards. But in your own estimation, how would you say things have been?
I think we need to trace the leadership journey, but I must thank you, Victor, for this opportunity and for bringing on real youths to talk about the issues concerning the youths of this country. Because you see, what has happened over time is that the elderly youths have refused to pave way for the real young youths to actually take their turn and actually express and find expression in politics and in leadership. And by that, I refer to people who are less than the age of 40, who are 35, who are 30, who are in their 20s, who can also contribute their quota to leadership generally in the country. The journey so far, I must say without any fear, because I find myself as a professional in politics and also as a politician. I've been a personal aide of a Nigerian governor in the last 6 years. And so I can tell you that the things I'd say here are born out of experience. And we've also studied the Nigerian story ever since we were born. The first fundamental thing is that the Nigerian system is rigged against the active participation of youths in politics. It is about the leadership recruitment system. It is about the way political parties, apportion offices. It is about the entire structure. And it is not only deficient or deficit in one particular political party, it's across the major political parties and even the parties that are actually coming up. And even the parties that call themselves have, as part of the acronym, young or youth attached to them. Everyone is guilty of it entirely. So you find out that in the last 16 to 20 years, particularly within the democratic dispensation, a few young persons have sneaked in, and I use the word advisedly, into leadership positions. But you see, that has not been deliberate. That has not been something that was well thought out of. It's just that for one reason or the other, they found themselves in leadership position. And so for me, I quickly go straight to the solution. I think the solution lies first in the hands of the youth, who must understand that they should participate actively in politics. And you see, youths express lots of zest, lots of enthusiasm when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to the arts, when it comes to live reality shows, when it comes to everything except politics. Even in religion, you find active youthful participation within the entire rungs of leadership. But it is not there in politics except when they are needed to make up the crowd during political rallies, or are needed to be hired out as stocks during elections, and when they are needed for violence, that's when everyone will chant, build the youths, build the nation, except for a few parties, a few governments who deliberately try to engage the young people actively in politics. And you see, as young Nigerians, we absolutely deserve more. We deserve more. We deserve more slots. We deserve more engagement. And you see, leadership, from what I've seen from experience, and politics is earned. Nobody will give it to you on a platter.
Anekeme, based on what you just said, it's something that you earn and it won't be given to you on the platter. I mean, what has been done to earn that positions? I mean, what have young people done to earn that position?
They used something extraordinary, Victor, in the last a couple of months, which was the NSAS movement, which I thought would have been sustained into something futuristic, away from just complaining, away from just protesting, away from just mentioning the problems. I thought that would have galvanized into some fulcrum for the youths to, some springboard for the youths to find expression and say, we're also capable of doing this. We have young Nigerians who are educated, who are experienced. And you see, from that tiny expression, you could see the coordination. You could see the orderliness. You could see the transparency. You could see the capacity, exhibited by young Nigerians, meaning that they can actually run this country in every ramification, in sports, in agriculture, in industrialization, in education, all round. The capacity is there, but the leadership recruitment system is rigged against them. And so young people must deliberately be part of the process. Okay, we're talking about 2023. How are the young people warming themselves up to the hearts of Nigerians? You find a few aspirants who come around only during elections, and after the elections, they go into extinction, doing nothing deliberate to earn the trust of Nigerians. Because you see, in the electoral process, you must earn the trust. You must earn the trust of leadership. You must earn the trust of women. You must earn the trust of men and everybody within that system to vote for you. You don't just become elected on the platter that you are a youth. That would become, a pity party. But young Nigerians must look away from entertainment, must look away from soft news, and they have the power, the technology, the social media. They have the galvanization and the mobilization to make it happen. So I'm calling on the influencers, the people they look up to, the celebrity models, the pastors, the religious leaders, the imams, the people who influence young people in one way or the other to encourage youth participation. Get your voter card ready. Let's set the agenda for the Nigerian political class to now buy up. It is what they use, because we have the numbers, we have the population. But the problem has consistently and persistently been that the youths are not interested in the process. And
so
the political.
I was gonna come to you on this, talking about the numbers, and also, but you might have the numbers, but what about the interest to participate? I mean, there is that. We've seen how the number of registered voters, the youth constitute a larger chunk of the number of registered voters, but on election day, they seem to just hide behind their keyboards, chill in their homes, and just not get bothered about what is going on. I mean, Anekeme, or even Indy, I mean, what can we do for that? What can be done to change that mode of operation?
I think it calls for massive sensitization. There is need for a greater sensitization for youth to participate in the political process. Because you see, just being on social media and complaining about poor leadership will not solve the general problem. It lies in active participation and also identifying, a few youths that can actually be propped up, because it's like a dog-eat-dog system within the youth network. They seem not to trust youths with leadership positions. It's the same thing I say with women when they complain about marginalization. I said, but women and youths hold the numbers. Why is it possible for women to support women and for youths to support youths? We always run them down. We always castigate them. There are no perfect leaders. Youths must learn to line up, after, their fellow youths, so as to find expression within the Nigerian political system Of course, you know the elders are not
let
ready to
me
retire.
just quickly bring Indy into this conversation. Indy, I'm talking about, you know, the youths standing behind the youths and women supporting women, you know, when it comes to election. How feasible is this?
What we have is a very expensive money run system. It's a very, very expensive system. And anybody who enters that system, right, already has to play ball with the other members of the system so that they can survive in it. So that's why we're saying, look, we have to make this system level. If I win elections, I have to play ball with people who are within that system. And who are the people who are within that system? It's still the older generation men, right? So if it is one of us that crosses in there, the person has crossed and belongs in that other side. So I'm asking again that, look, these parties, especially right now, right, there are events that happen that are cataclysmic. There are events that happen that, look, you have to rely on the power of the streets, on the power of the normal person, on the power of everyone to be able to change things. And this is it. Going to 2023, if the opposition is serious, this is what it is, and this is an opportunity for young people to get it, right? But if you're not serious, it will still continue as a game of old men and attempting to get it done with all of that, and then they will not succeed. I will use my local government as an example. The last local government election, right, which was before 2019 elections, the last Kaduna local government elections, young people slept outside in the rain in Jamaica local government to ensure that their votes were counted. It was an electronic voting machine, but that the person, the INEC rep there, will declare the right thing. They slept, we spent money, those who could not be there, spent money to ensure that those who were there were fed, were so invested. But then as the politics continued, young people started to feel, look, yes, we support this certain party and our emotional investment is there, but we're getting next to nothing for it. When these people win, we feel like they're not on our side. And we also don't get enough participation within this party. So by this election that just got passed, young people were not emotionally invested. And you could tell easily the other party got it. So this is what we're saying, that there are events where you can harvest emotions. You can harvest people wanting to participate in this thing. But you see, you can't just tell them, come and vote for us and go. They need to feel like they belong in this system. They need to feel like, you know what, at the end of the day, this thing that I'm fighting for, decision making, I'm part of it. I'm not trying to put somebody, especially most of the names are still names that we're seeing from before. So we have to ensure that, look, the names are names like you and I. So the thought of, oh, young people do not support, like Anyeke, it's not like, no offense at all.
Just before you go into that, let me just hold you. Let me hold you for a bit, Indy. Just before you go into that, we need to take a quick break, and of course, when we come back, I'll still come back to you to land where you were going to. We'll take a quick break, and I'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists joining us via Zoom from Abuja and Uyo, the capital of Akwa Ibom State. We have with us Indy Kato as well as Anekeme Fimba. But Indy, just before we went on the break, you were trying to make an example, and you were about citing using Anekeme again, you know, as an example. So please, if you could land on that as we wind down.
No, what I'm saying is that at this point, it's not also that young people do not support other young people or do not support women. It's that they're not invested in the process, right? They're not emotionally invested in the process. If you're emotionally invested in the process, then you would scrutinize the person who is coming to run for office even more. If you're emotionally invested in the process, you will vote around, you know, things that affect you more. You would vote around age, yes, gender, like this person that enters is going to think about things that affect me. We think alike, you know, all of those things. But that is not how young people vote. It's either young people are not voting, or for those who go to the polls, they go to the polls and collect money, and then all of that. So these things are not things that young people are looking at right now to say, oh, this is why I'm going to the polls. And this is why I am pointing out specifically, how do we get young people emotionally invested? How do we get young people to feel a sense of ownership in the political situation in Nigeria, in politics, policy making, all of that? How do we get young people to feel a sense of ownership? What young people in Nigeria have decided is, you know what, we don't care about this. And we're going to see it play out in the Anambra elections. We're going to see it. We're the majority of voters right now, and young people are going to decide they're not going to come out to vote. very few people are going to come out. And the South is the place that actually needs a lot of votes, needs to see an increase in voter registration, voter turnout. And what we're going to see is young people saying, no, I don't want violence. I don't want thuggery to get to me. These votes do not matter. I'm not invested in the continuation of this or the continuity of this country. I'm not invested in Nigeria as an entity. I'm not going to come out to vote. So our major work for everyone across media, across civil society, political parties, leaders, anybody who is saying they're interested in the growth or in the future of this country, or the future of Nigeria, is that we need to look for how to get young people invested. Right now, they are not invested. It's like the people who have given up on the thing. And right now, we have to find how to get that investment.
All right, quickly, let me just pose that question to Anekeme. Anekeme, how do we get young people invested, in the progress, in the success, in policy making, and all of these things that Indy has made mention of, in the country?
Victor, first, there are actually two levels to this. Number one is to participate in the process, that is to be voted for, and then to vote. Usually, there is a tremendous improvement when it comes to the idea of voting for people. We must confess that young people have, over the elections, over the past general elections we've had, and other elections, participated tremendously to vote mostly for older people. But when it comes to contesting for offices and occupying leadership positions, of course, the Nigerian factor. There are natural frustrations. I call them natural frustrations. One of it being financing and being able to cater for, elections are generally very costly. And of course, they are much more costly in Nigeria. And so there is the frustration of not being able to sponsor themselves within that process. But you see, the solution for me in getting young people to participate more at both ends is for greater sensitization to be done, for them to believe that it is possible to get it done. And that's why I make copious reference to the NSAS, series. I call it the NSAS series, because it gave an opportunity for young people to confirm, that they can make it happen. Young people shut down the country and forced Nigerians to listen to their messages. It means that if they could come together again under a common front for the common good, they can also use their numbers, they can use their savvy, technological strength, to force this message down. Because you see, this message will not be accepted except it is literally forced down the necks of the political system. At the moment, the young people must understand that they are working, against the tide. They are running against the tide. They are flowing against the tide, and must be ready to be united, to come together across political lines, across religious lines, across ethnic lines, which of course has remained the bane of this very country in diversity.
All right, Nekeme, I'd have to say thank you to you, and also to Indikato, who joined us as well from Abuja. You joined us from Uyo. I would say thank you to both of you for joining us today on the program and sharing your thoughts. And of course, like Indi said, the Anambra elections is just going to be another litmus test, and we'll wait and see how all of that is going to play out, how the young people would play their roles when the time comes. But again, thank you for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. You are a real young ambassador for the year 2021. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Unofficial. Thank you once again. But that's where we are. Let's now take a look at the movie videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
President Buhari's Independence Day speech caught the attention of our YouTube viewers as the video kicks off this week's charts in 5th place.
We remain ready to take decisive actions against secessionist agitators and their sponsors who threaten our national security.
And he's not done yet, as falling one place down in the charts to number 4 is the address made by President Muhammadu Buhari during the UN General Assembly 2021.
Nigeria has spared no effort in addressing the challenges of terrorism posed by the activities of Boko Haram in northeast Nigeria, the Lake Chad region, as well as banditry in the northwest and north central.
In third place is River State Governor Nyesom Wike, ascribing the insecurity in the country to impunity.
What are those factors that have led to this insecurity? One of such factors, as far as I'm concerned, is impunity.
And losing a spot from last week's chart is the arrest of a fake soldier with an AK-47 rifle and 60 other suspects in Nasarawa State. And while the EFCC chairman slumping during a presentation at this year's National Identity Day, which held in Abuja, gains a spot from last week to top the charts.
And that's the show this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. Bye for now.